Back here at Petco Park, welcoming to our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show here on the Padres Radio Network. Final score in the second game of this four-game series, the Cardinals 6 and the Padres nothing. Padres have lost the first two games of this four-game set against St. Louis. Sam Levitt with you inside the Western Metal Building here at Petco Park as we welcome you into our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show. Hey, player, with a top 100 spa, an epic rooftop pool, and Lux Hotel Suites, Jamul Casino Resort is the mini vacay you need, the player's place. Well, before we hear from Craig Stammen, we recap this game from start to finish. Some initial thoughts for you, and on most nights, it feels like the Padres' offensive performance would be the story. The Padres getting one hit tonight. The Cardinals retiring the final 16 batters of the game. The Padres only had base runners in one inning here tonight. Aside from that, it was 9 up, 9 down through 3 innings, and it was 15 up, 15 down in the final 5 innings of this game. 16 up, 16 down if you include the final out of the 4th inning. So on most nights, that would certainly be the story. The Padres getting one hit, and the Padres now without a run in 17 consecutive innings going back to last night. The only run the Padres have scored in this series came in the first inning yesterday. So that would be the story, and it's certainly part of the story. However, I do think tonight this game is going to get remembered for one moment, and that was the error by Fernando Tatis Jr. in the 5th inning. Now, a run certainly comes into score on that play in the 5th inning. Would have been 1-0 St. Louis, but it went from 1-0 to an automatic 4-0 when Fernando Tatis Jr. overran a base hit into right field, just missed it, rolled behind him, and J.J. Weatherholt came all the way around to score on a Little League home run, a single and an error on Tatis in right field, and it cleared the bases, a Little League grand slam essentially in that 5th inning, and that was the play of the game, no doubt about it. 6 runs allowed in that inning by the Padres. Unfortunately, all of them earned against Griffin Canning, and that was the story of this game. Again, Padres offense tonight, had Fernando handled that ball cleanly, and they have the same exact offensive night, and let's say Fernando picks up that baseball, throws it home, gets the out at home plate, and the Cardinals only get 1 run in that 5th inning. I'm just making the point to you. The Padres could have the same exact offensive game, and they lose this game 1-0. So the offense was certainly an issue here tonight, but I do think, fair or unfair, this game's going to be remembered for that one play. And look, I do think it's magnified right now for Fernando Tatis Jr. really in 2 ways. Number one, he is such a good defensive outfielder. He's a platinum glover. We so rarely see Fernando ever make an error, let alone make that kind of error on that kind of play. And it was such a costly error as part of that 6-run 5th inning. It was shocking for that reason. And also, again, fairly or unfairly, it's getting magnified right now by what's going on with Fernando at the plate offensively. And look, unfortunate what happened to him in that 5th inning, that the inning unraveled the way it did on the Padres. But look, again, offensively here tonight, that was a major problem as well. Again, the Padres get 1 hit. They had a base runner on in 1 inning in this game. Aside from that, it was 9 up, 9 down through 3 innings. And to finish the game, the Cardinals retiring 16 batters in a row to finish this game. So I know there will be a lot of attention on the play with Fernando, probably rightfully so, the way things totally unraveled in that 6th inning, or rather the 5th inning. But the offense didn't help out the Padres either here tonight. Michael McGreevy was great, 6 scoreless innings against this Padres offense, and another example of a starting pitcher being very effective and going very deep into a game. And any way you want to slice it here tonight, the Padres have now lost the opening 2 games of this 4-game series. When we come back, we'll get into the radio highlights, recap this game from start to finish. We'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen coming up a little bit later as well. Again, the final score tonight, the Cardinals 6 and the Padres nothing. Our postgame coverage continues after this on the Padres Radio Network.
Woodsy here. My family loves
Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. As we wrap this one up, final score in Game 2 of this 4-game series, the Cardinals 6 and the Padres nothing. Padres dropped to 22-16 on the season. The Cardinals improved to 23-15. We'll go downstairs here from Craig Stammen coming up in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's recap this one from start to finish, how it went down on this Friday night in downtown San Diego.
Which moments determine the outcome of today's game? We'll paint you a picture with our game highlights on the Padres Radio Network.
A couple of right-handers going at it tonight. Griffin Canning making his second start of the season for the Padres. Right-hander Michael McGreevy on the mound for St. Louis. Both guys were dealing early on. Canning allowed just a single and struck out 5 batters through 3 innings. McGreevy went 9 up and 9 down to begin his night. Canning pitched the scoreless top of the 4th. In the bottom half, Jackson Merrill became the Padres' first base runner on a leadoff single. McGreevy would then walk a couple of guys to load the bases, but he induced a ground out from Miguel Andujar to end the inning. Padres stranding the bases loaded in that bottom half of the 4th. So we still had a 0-0 game. Going top 5, the Cardinals put a rally together against Canning. Mason Wynn singled. Nathan Church hit an infield single. Victor Scott II walked to load the bases. There was 1 out for J.J. Weatherholt.
1-1 pitch. Weatherholt hard hit on the ground through the right side of base hit. Wynn has scored. Church is being waved, and now it gets underneath Tatis. Going to roll all the way to the warning track. Scott has scored, and now Weatherholt is going to come all the way around a Little League grand slam. 4-0 St. Louis here at the top of the 5th inning.
A rare and incredibly costly error from Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field. Just went right underneath his mitt, went all the way to the warning track, and Weatherholt, who has great speed, he scored easily on what was a single and an error. 4 runs came in, and as Jesse rightly described, a Little League grand slam for J.J. Weatherholt. The Cardinals took a 4-0 lead. Cardinals weren't done. They loaded the bases again against Canning with a couple of hits and a walk. Yuki Matsui came in to face Nolan Gorman. He gave up an RBI single. It was 5-0. A sac fly made it 6-0. The Cardinals scoring 6 runs on 6 hits in the 5th inning. 1 critical error. All the runs were earned against Griffin Canning in that 5th inning. And to be quite honest with you, from that point on, the rest of the story is pretty simple. Padres bullpen from that point on did a pretty good job, well, more than a pretty good, a very good job keeping the deficit at 6. Yuki Matsui ultimately would go 2 2/3 innings in this game. No runs charged against him. 3 hits given up. Wandy Peralta scoreless 8th inning. Ron Marinaccio a scoreless 9th inning. But the only problem was that the Padres did not do anything offensively today other than a leadoff single and a couple of walks in the 4th inning. McGreevy went 6 scoreless innings, 1 hit allowed, a career high 9 Ks. 2 walks in this game for McGreevy. And then Gordon Graceffo, a couple of scoreless innings out of the bullpen for St. Louis. Ryan Stanek got the final 3 outs, and Cardinals pitching retired the final 16 batters of this game here tonight. The final score, Cardinals 6 and the Padres nothing. The Cardinals again scoring 6 runs in the 5th inning. All the offense in this game, they scored 6 runs on 11 hits. All those runs were earned against Griffin Canning, and the Padres dropped to 22-16. Cardinals improved to 23-15. Griffin Canning, the losing pitcher today, he's 0-1, and the win goes to Michael McGreevy, who improves to 3-2. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen. Padres fall on this Friday night, 6-0 to the St. Louis Cardinals. Our postgame coverage continues after these words.
We'll be right back.
Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we wrap this one up. Cardinals win it 6-0 on this Friday evening. Cardinals have won the first two games of this four-game series, so the Padres will have to win the next two tomorrow and Sunday to earn a series split and try to avoid a series loss, and we'll see if they can do that with tomorrow's game in mind, and we'll talk more about tomorrow's game coming up in just a little bit. A lot to do on our post-game coverage. We'll go downstairs, hear from Craig Stammen in just a moment. Again, tonight, one of those games where, unfortunately, and fairly or not, it's going to be remembered, I think, for kind of one thing, and that was the Fernando Tatis Jr. error in the fifth inning on the ball that J.J. Weatherholt hit with the bases loaded. Would have certainly scored one run, may have scored two, even if Fernando picks it up cleanly and makes a good throw home. But the one thing that you didn't anticipate was it getting underneath Fernando Tatis Jr.'s glove, just right under it. I don't even know that he got a piece of it, and it rolled all the way to the warning track, and J.J. Weatherholt, who can really run, he easily scored on what was a Little League grand slam, officially ruled a single and an error in right field on Fernando Tatis Jr. And look, that was a rough moment, no doubt about it. As I said in the opening segment, I think it's shocking for a few reasons. Number one, just on a base level, Fernando is so good defensively, and you just are not accustomed to seeing him commit an error, and the numbers prove that out. That error by Fernando snapped an 111-game stretch of errorless baseball from Fernando defensively. And by the way, that now includes his time at second base. He is a tremendous defender. So anytime he makes an error, it's going to be surprising, but especially that kind of error that not only was on, such sort of a simple play, kind of routine play, but also it was so costly because of the score and because of the situation. Now, I will say again, I'm just throwing it out there as a hypothetical. Had Fernando picked that ball up, and let's say he threw out a runner at home plate, and that's all the runs the Padres give up in the fifth inning, and they're down 1-0. If the Padres had the exact same offensive game tonight, they still would have lost this game 1-0. So was the Tatis play absolutely critical in this game? It was. With that said, Padres also didn't help themselves out by, an offensive performance where they had one single. That was the only hit of the night. They had a base runner on in one inning. They had the single and two walks in the fourth inning. That was it. Other than that, 8 out of the 9 innings tonight, they went down 1-2-3, 9 up, 9 down to start the game. Little flurry in the fourth inning. They didn't score, and the Cardinals retired the final 16 batters of the game. So again, the offense here tonight, as it was last night, an issue. Padres have one run in this series through 2 games, and they now have not scored in 17 consecutive innings. So yes, will the Fernando error, I think, be sort of the thing of the night? It will be. I just think that's the way it's going to go. And I think a lot of it's magnified right now by, again, what's going on at the plate with Fernando offensively. But no doubt about it, it was about more than just that Fernando error tonight. I mean, the Padres collectively had a single and a couple of walks, and that was it. And again, had Fernando picked it up cleanly and just 1 or 2 runs score on that play in the fifth inning, and the Padres have the same offensive night, unfortunately, the win-loss result would not have been any different. With all that in mind, let's go downstairs and hear from Craig Stammen.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres skipper Craig Stammen. Served up by Sinley Food. If you've had better chicken, you must be a rooster.
Craig, how do you think that one got away from Griffin, who was really pitching magnificently?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think she's gotten some bad counts there in that fifth inning, and just couldn't stop the bleeding. And then obviously the base hit with the bases loaded that gets all the way to the wall, and a little bit of a letdown. Not a little bit, but a lot of a letdown kind of for everybody, especially that starting pitcher trying to get out of that inning limited damage. So, that inning just got away from us.
I don't know how much more you can say about it or how many more times you can shuffle the lineup or whatever, but just, what are you or aren't you seeing out of the offense?
Yeah, we're seeing a pitcher pitch really good against us, mixed pitches, and us unable to adjust to what he's doing to us. It just looks like the pitcher is kind of dictating the at-bats, and from the box, we're not able to dictate and force the pitcher into throwing the pitches that we can hit. A lot of things on the table to figure that out. We'll get back to the drawing board and keep working on it.
Yeah. How does that change? What are those things that are on the table to make you guys be the ones dictating those at-bats?
Yeah, I think each hitter has got to individually, they're the only ones in the box. So it's, it's a team game and an individual concept. And, those guys individually got to be dialed in on where their swing is and what their approach is. And then as a team, they've got to come together. We've got to come together and collectively, compete every at-bat and try to put at-bat after at-bat after at-bat together, kind of like what we talked about earlier in the season, is passing the baton to each other, trusting the next guy. I thought we did a great job of that in the fourth inning. We did a great job loading the bases. Fernando had a tremendous at-bat with two guys on to load the bases, and Miggy really hit one hard just right at the shortstop. So eventually we're going to find holes on that stuff just like they did today. The two hits are very similar. His went through between first and second. Ours went right at the shortstop. So we just got to keep working, keep grinding, keep hitting the ball hard, and keep fighting for those one runs, and then eventually it'll turn into 3, 4, or 5 in one inning.
What was your vantage on Tatis's error and that whole play?
I was kind of looking at the runner, so I actually missed him missing the ball. But he was coming in, trying to make a play, try to throw the guy out, and things like that happen. He's not a perfect player. Nobody's a perfect player. Even the best players in the world, make mistakes. It's what makes baseball such an intriguing sport, is they're not perfect. And it's okay not to be perfect. It's going to happen.
Nonetheless, it being him, he's obviously a tremendous defender in right field. Given kind of what he's gone through at the plate, do you think maybe trying to do a little too much in that spot, or do you think it's just a mishap?
No, I don't think so. He's a playmaker. He's just trying to make a play, and came up short on that one. He had a tremendous, like I said, an amazing at bat right before that. Just did everything, you could ever ask of a player to do, with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. So he had to have felt good about that. So I don't think he was taking that at bat out to the outfield.
I know it's really worked. You've gone pitcher to pitcher in terms of your approach, and it's really worked for you sometimes because you have aggressive hitters, but you're not seeing a lot of pitches from the starting pitcher. Is there anything to trying to work more at bats or longer at bats, or?
Yeah, that's definitely an option, to be a little bit more selective. I felt like we've tried that at times and it's backfired. So, I think it is pitcher dependent. We've got to come in with the game plan and then stick to it and try to execute that game plan, first hitter to the ninth hitter for as long as he's in the game. And I just think there's been breaks in that, different players at different times, just we're giving in maybe a little too early or being slightly more aggressive than we should or not aggressive enough. You could argue all of that stuff. But we'll get after it. These guys are good hitters. They're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together. And, we'll be talking about this time in the season as a growth point, facing adversity and us being able to stack a brick to, build for a run in the postseason.
That was Padres manager Craig Stammen following this 6-0 loss for the Padres against the St. Louis Cardinals here tonight. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. The ballpark has emptied out. Everybody heading on home for the evening. But as always, I'm still with you here on our Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show. By the way, a tremendous crowd tonight. 17th sellout of the season. More than 40,000 in the building on, well, aside from the ball game itself was, I'm sure, a fun Friday night in the stands, a City Connect Friday night. The ball game was not, I don't think, particularly fun as far as the Padres and the final score. But still, great crowd. Padres fans always showing up and doing a great job in the stands, as always. 17th sellout of the season here tonight. And by the way, I do want to welcome anybody who was watching the game on Apple TV. I know we always get some new listeners and viewers for the pre- and post-game coverage when we have a game on national TV and we don't have the local pre- and post-game TV coverage. So welcome in. If you're joining us for the first time this season or ever, we appreciate you. We hope you'll join us once again for another nationally televised game tomorrow and beyond that as well. Look, I think Craig does a really good job in these post-game pressers and saying a lot of the right things and handling things in a really nice way. I think he's done a really good job in that department through the first almost quarter of this season now. Again, and I'll go back to this. I do think the Fernando error is going to be the thing that people look at in this game, and that's probably fair and rightfully so. But errors happen. Now, I'm not going to jump out there and say, oh, well, you know what? He's forcing it. He's trying to make a play because he's, having the offensive troubles. I mean, can that be part of it? Sure. But great players and even great defenders sometimes make errors, and errors happen every day. So I put it this way. It's unfortunate it happened tonight, but in the big picture of the 2026 San Diego Padres, I'm not worried about Fernando Tatis Jr.'s defense at all. It happened. It was unfortunate. But again, I make the point to you. Had Fernando picked up that baseball and threw a strike home and got the runner at home plate, the second run, okay? And the Cardinals took a 1-0 lead, and that's all they scored in that fifth inning. If the Padres had the same offensive game, the score would have been 1-0, and they still lose the game. Okay, I make that point to you here tonight. Not excusing the error, but I do think we deserve a little context here. And errors happen, and in the big picture of the 2026 Padres, I'm not worried about Fernando, the defender. Not one bit. The bigger, and I think, honestly, bigger issue from this game is the continuation of the Padres, A, struggling offensively sort of in general, B, the big guys not hitting, and C, again, we talked about it a lot after Monday night's game, the Padres having an issue getting to opposing starting pitchers, and this has been a major theme. It was another quality start against them tonight. And look, this isn't going to give me any great pleasure here, but I'm going to read off, just going back a week plus here, the starts against the Padres, just the lines, because I think it tells a lot of the story about, and you heard Craig there. And again, I think Craig really hit the nail on the head there. It feels like, and I'm not the hitting guru, and I never claimed to be, but it feels like starting pitchers are facing them and just sort of dictating the night. And you heard Craig say there, they have to do a better job at understanding what a starting pitcher is doing to them and making adjustments against it. I mean, look at some of these lines. Tonight, it was Michael McGreevy, 6 scoreless innings, 1 hit given up, quality start. Last night, it was Matthew Liberatore, 6 innings, 3 hits given up, 1 run, quality start. On Wednesday in San Francisco, Adrian Hauser, 6+ innings, 2 runs, 1 earned given up, quality start. They got to Logan Webb on Tuesday to their credit. Monday night, Trevor McDonald, 7 innings, 1 run given up against the Padres in San Francisco, quality start. Anthony Kay, 5 innings, 3 runs on the Sunday against the White Sox. Then you had Sean Burke and Noah Schultz going 6 scoreless innings in the first 2 games of that series. Jamison Tyone on the Wednesday against the Cubs, 7 innings, 3 runs given up, quality start. Edward Cabrera, 5 2/3, 3 runs. Matthew Boyd, they got to him. That was a good job. Look, I could keep going on and go deeper and deeper back into April, but they've had a really, really tough time getting to starting pitchers. And that is something that they're going to have to improve at, because this is just a tough way to live if you're not playing from ahead, grabbing leads, giving your starting pitcher something to work with, a lead to work with. And I think in the Padres case in particular, where it hurts them, is this is a team where you could argue their greatest strength is their bullpen, and especially the high leverage arms in their bullpen. And for the most part, when you hand the back end of that bullpen a lead, they're going to get you home with a win, And they are. They're that good when you talk about the likes of Morejon and Adam and Miller and Estrada and Bradley Rodriguez. For the most part, those guys, you can count on them to get the job done. But that really only comes into play if you're working from ahead. And it doesn't feel like in a lot of these games they're working from ahead. And again, you have to get to starting pitching in order to take the leads and give your starting pitchers and your bullpen something to work with. So that continues to be an issue that's been on full display the first 2 games of this series. And again, doesn't excuse what happened in the 5th inning. Fernando makes the error. Griffin Canning didn't do a great job after that at limiting the damage. The inning kept unraveling, although I got to tell you, it's hard to put a lot of it on Canning because of what happened on that play with the Weatherholt Little League Grand Slam and how that just sort of shook up the whole inning. But offensively, they've got to find a way to do more, and especially against opposing starting pitchers. That's going to be something we keep on watching every day because it has been a problem for this offense. And, it doesn't feel like if you're not taking leads, a great recipe for success. So we'll see. Tough one here tonight. Tough start to this series. The good news, you got 2 more games against the Cardinals and an opportunity to right the ship over the course of this weekend. We'll step aside. When we come back, we'll get into our daily awards. We will also take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up later. Phone number, if you want to get involved, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Phone number to dial. Padres fall tonight 6-0 to the St. Louis Cardinals. Our post-game coverage continues after this. KWFN. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we wrap this one up. Final score, Cardinals 6 and the Padres nothing on this Friday evening as the Padres get one hit for the first time in a long time. We'll talk more about that little bit later on. As always, our post-game coverage brought to you by Jamul Casino Resort. Hey, player, the rooftop pool's open. Day passes are available, and the spa is calling your name. Jamul Casino Resort, the player's place. Padres did have some bright spots out of the bullpen today. Let's tell you about our relief pitcher of the game.
Which pitcher entered the game and slammed the door shut? This is today's relief pitcher of the game, brought to you by San Diego criminal defense attorney David P. Shapiro. We help good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime. Learn more at davidpshapirolaw.com.
All right, you might be sitting there on the ride home. Maybe you're stuck in traffic right now. Maybe you're still getting out of the parking lots. Maybe you're at home. Maybe you're watching on YouTube. Maybe you're whatever you're doing, coming home from a late dinner on a Friday night, on your way to some Friday evening plans, and you're thinking to yourself, man, there's no way Sam can pull out positive silver linings from this kind of game. Well, I've got news for you. I've got them for you right here. And I think it's actually pretty easy here tonight because I think the Padres bullpen did a really nice job. Now, Yuki Matsui came in, gave up an RBI single, gave up a sac fly to make it 6-0. Caught stealing, ended that fifth inning, the 6-run fifth inning for the Cardinals lineup. Wandy Peralta scoreless eighth inning. Ron Marinaccio scoreless ninth inning. However, I'm going to give relief pitcher of the game tonight to Mr. Yuki Matsui, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, he gave up a couple inherited runners coming in the fifth inning. Griffin Canning's probably not particularly happy about that. By the way, that was a tough break for Canning. All the runs ended up being earned, despite that error by Tatis in that fifth inning. So his final line was 4 1/3 innings, 6 earned runs given up. So that was unfortunate for Griffin. But I'm going to give it to Yuki Matsui because Yuki Matsui did something that was very important tonight, despite giving up the inherited runners, despite the final score. And that was provide the Padres with some length. He goes 2 2/3 innings. He threw 38 pitches in his season debut. Tonight was his first appearance of 2026 after the injury that came all the way back at spring training. 2 2/3 innings, 38 pitches, and he ensured that beyond him, in a game where your starting pitcher only went 4 1/3, the Padres only needed 2 other relievers to throw an inning each. Marinaccio, 14 pitches. Wandy, 7 pitches. So for that reason, Yuki's getting relief pitcher of the game tonight. He provided length on a night where the Padres wanted length, needed length, and saved you from maybe using another bullpen arm or who knows, maybe 2 in a game you were trailing by 6 runs. So for that reason, Yuki Matsui is our relief pitcher of the game here tonight. Works out that way. Thought that was very important tonight, that he provided some length. Last thing you want to do in a game like this, where you're trailing by 6 runs, is to start burning through bullpen arms. And, hey, Yuki going 2 2/3 and, grabbing the 6th, then the 7th after he came in the 5th inning. That was big tonight for the Padres bullpen. Let's tell you about the Padres heart of the order.
Let's take the pulse of the Padres and check in on the Heart of the Order, presented by Palomar Health, the official healthcare provider of 97.3 The Fan. Palomar Health, leading with heart for every patient. Palomar Health is reimagining healthcare.
Part of the order here tonight, well, on a night where you only have one single, and that was the lone hit. Not going to be particularly pretty. Manny Machado 0 for 4 tonight. Gavin Sheets out of the cleanup spot. 0 for 2 with a walk, and Fernando Tatis Jr. 0 for 2 with a walk as well. So a combined 0 for 8 with a couple of walks for the 3, 4, 5 spots tonight. Manny, Sheets, and Tatis. And that's a look at the heart of the order here tonight. It's been a while since the Padres were held to 1 hit. First time they've been held to 1 hit or less since June of 2025. That was in Cincinnati. Their 4th time being held to 1 hit since 2020. What else do I got for you tonight as far as notes? Tonight was the first time the Padres had been held to 3 or fewer base runners since April of last season. First time that's happened at home since April of 2024. So, look, not a great night offensively. I don't need to tell you that. One hit, 9 up, 9 down to start the game. Leadoff single in the fourth, a couple of 2-out walks. And then from the last out of the fourth inning through the end of the night, the Padres went down 16 in a row as they lost this game 6-0. All right, let's step aside. When we come back, full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, our play of the game. If you want to get a phone call in, 833-288-0973, phone number to call. Final score tonight, Cardinals 6, Padres 0. Our postgame coverage continues after this.
Keep it locked.
You're live at Petco Park. Final score on this Friday night, Cardinals 6 and the Padres 0, as the Padres drop the second game of this 4-game series. The third game of this 4-game set coming up tomorrow in the late afternoon. A little bit of a different start time tomorrow. We will talk about that coming up a little bit later on. And we'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard in a moment as well. But first, let's squeeze in a phone call or two. Why not? 833-288-0973. Phone number to call, again, 833-288-0973. Let's go to Ryan calling in from San Diego. Ryan, you're on the Padres radio network on this Friday evening. Welcome in.
Hey, Sammy. Very rough night for the Padres. I thought after Tuesday's win, that they were starting to figure it back out on offense, but clearly they just haven't been able to muster up much against starters, clearly, and they just haven't been playing a very sustainable way to win games so far this season, but I'm still remaining optimistic that will change very soon.
Yeah, Ryan, appreciate the phone call. Look, I pretty much agree with you in the sense of the word sustainable, I think, is an interesting one when it comes to this start of the season. We have seen this team, to their credit, and we've talked about it a lot. We've seen them simply find ways. And every time in the early part of this season, they've struggled offensively. They've sort of figured it out. And one way or another, they've worked themselves to entering tonight what was a 22-15 record. And they're now 22-16 after tonight. The word sustainable is an interesting one because there are two thoughts I have on it, and they both have to do with the offense. I think no doubt when you look at the course of 162 and the long season this is going to be, and we're not, are we a quarter of the way through now? Carry the one. No, we're not quite a quarter of the way through. We're just about there, but we're not quite a quarter of the way through yet. Game 38 here tonight. So we're getting there. Let's, for all intents and purposes, say it's a quarter of the way through. You can stay afloat with some of these offensive things a quarter of the season, but I do think it's going to be hard throughout 162 for them to keep up this kind of pace if two things continue. And that is, one, a lot of their big-time hitters struggling, and we're talking about Fernando and Manny and Cronenworth when he comes back, and Jackson's certainly been very up and down. Look, they're going to need those guys to be all-star type players. They're going to need those guys to hit and hit big time. I think that's fair. I think that's safe to say. The other thing too, and you mentioned the starting pitching, the woes against starting pitching, I should say. Yeah, they've and you heard Craig talk about it post game. They have to find a way to start hitting opposing starting pitching more consistently, because you got to play with some leads, and you've got to give your starting pitching a little room for error, and your bullpen a lead to work with. So there's plenty of season left for that all that happen, but they're going to need those things to happen, I think, in order for them to ultimately go where they want to go, and where I think a lot of us think they can go. But they've also, on the flip side, done a nice job getting off to a nice start despite those things not happening. And all those things can be true at once. So we'll see. But look, offensively, they're going to have to kick it into a higher gear. And we've obviously talked about that for quite a long time. All right, let's squeeze in one more phone call here. Let's go to Juan calling in. Juan, you're on the Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show with Sam Levitt. Welcome in.
Hey, Sammy.
Hey.
Thanks for always doing a good job. Same to Hamby, who's working the board.
Yep.
I'm mostly calling in to talk about the offense, which,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you put succinctly, they can't really survive with the pace that they're going at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it has to do with approach. And it seems like they're really aggressive on early pitches, especially in the zone and especially fastballs. And especially with these sinker ball pitchers, a lot of those aggressive first pitch swings are going to end up in the dirt. And we've seen it time and time again. And if that first pitch gets fouled, it seems like the pitcher is very capable, especially these big league pitchers that have experience, to dictate that at bat and take control of the game. And they've been efficient all the way through these last couple games. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Juan, appreciate the phone call. Look, I think I'm going to take what you're saying and kind of give the example of it. Look, they are not making the starting pitchers throw a lot of pitches. They're not really making them work. Now, look, every night's going to be a little bit different. Your approach every night's not always going to be the same. I think as baseball fans, a lot of us always go by the very, old mantra of, hey, make a starting pitcher work and get into the bullpen and, make them throw a lot of pitches. And I think a lot of nights that's true, but there's certainly nights where you might have an approach where you're just being aggressive and you're attacking early. And a lot of times that can work. And we give credit when that does work. I will say, though, you just look at the pitch counts for a lot of these guys, like tonight. Okay, tonight wasn't the greatest example, 94 pitches in 6 innings, but certainly not a lot of pitches for 6 innings, not anything crazy. It was 94 through 6. And I'm just going to go through some of the more recent really good starts and just give you the pitch counts, kind of like I went through it before. Adrian Hauser, 6+ innings, 74 pitches. Trevor McDonald, 7 innings on Monday, 81 pitches. Noah Schultz, 6 scoreless innings, 87 pitches. Jameson Taillon, 95 pitches through 7. And now I'm getting way back. Now I'm going back to the Angels series, which I mean, we're going way too far back here, but I think you get my point. Hello? Hamby, am I back? Am I on the radio? Okay, I'm on. Hamby, am I back now? Okay, I'm live on the radio. Hamby, give me a thumbs up. Okay, I'm on the radio. Can everybody in San Diego hear me? Okay, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. I apologize about that. While we have a strong connection, I'm not sure what's going on. While we have a strong connection, Hamby, let's continue on. I'm sorry to cut off whatever conversation I was having about the offense. I think you get my point. We've been over it a handful of times already in the post game tonight. Hamby, let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
Take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard here tonight. Let's begin with the Astros beating the Reds 10-0 in Cincinnati today. The Rockies beat the Phillies 9-7 in Philadelphia, the final in 11 there. A's beat the Orioles 4-3 in Baltimore. Despite the loss, Pete Alonso, Adley Rutschman hit home runs in that game. Blue Jays beat the Angels 2-0 in Toronto. The Blue Jays getting a really nice performance from Dylan Cease. 7 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts for Cease tonight. Red Sox beat the Rays 2-0 in Boston at Fenway. Cedon, Rafaela, Wilyer Abreu home runs in that game for the Red Sox. Nationals beat the Marlins 3-2 in Miami. The Guardians and the Twins in Cleveland. I'll tell you about that game in a second, actually. I first want to focus on the Royals and the Tigers in Kansas City. It was a 3-3 game in the bottom half of the 9th inning, and the Royals walked it off. All right, well, the walk-off would sound something like...
lefty against lefty. Pitch to Isbell. Ground ball headed for left field. Here comes the runner around third. It's a hit. Here comes Lofton sliding in. Royals win it. How about that for a comeback?
All right, comeback win for the Royals in the bottom half of the 9th inning. Kyle Isbell, a walk-off hit in the 9th inning for Kansas City. How about another radio call in Cleveland? They face the Twins, Guardians and Twins going at it. A rookie with his first home run.
Here comes the 1-1 pitch. Swung on, and he blasts it high and deep. Right center field. Home run, Bazana. There it is, the first major league home run for Travis Bazana, and there was no doubt about it.
Travis Bazana, a very talented rookie, highly touted prospect, hitting the first home run of his major league career for the Guardians. Guardians win it 6-4 in Cleveland. Let's get through the other scores. Brewers beat the Yankees 6-0 in Milwaukee. Jacob Mizorowski, 6 scoreless innings, 11 strikeouts in that game. The Mariners beat the White Sox 12-8 in Chicago. Josh Naylor, Julio Rodriguez had a home runs in that game. Luke Raley had a couple of home runs in that game as well. Cubs beat the Rangers 7-1 in Arlington today. Seiya Suzuki home run in that game, 7th of the year for the Cubs. Mets beat the Diamondbacks in 3-1 in Arizona. Dodgers beat the Braves 3-1 in LA. And finally, Giants over the Pirates 5-2 in San Francisco. Final score here tonight at Petco Park, Cardinals 6 and the Padres nothing. Let's hear tonight's play of the game.
One bounce, one hit, one pitch can be the difference between victory and defeat. What was the most important play in today's game? This is today's Play of the Game. Presented by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating and Air, Restoration and Flood. We know how.
1-1 pitch. Weatherhold, hard hit on the ground through the right side, a base hit. Wynn has scored. Church is being waved, and now it gets underneath Tatis. Going to roll all the way to the warning track. Scott has scored, and now Weatherhold is going to come all the way around a Little League grand slam. 4-0 St. Louis here at the top of the fifth inning.
Well, unfortunately, that was the play of the game tonight. Kind of had to be, right? The single and the error by Fernando in right field. What was a single, like I said, single and an error, should have just been a hit that scored 1 or 2 runs. Who knows what happens if Fernando picks it up cleanly, throws home. But instead, it was a Little League grand slam. 4 runs came in. The Cardinals ultimately having a 6-run, 6-hit fifth inning. All those runs charged against Griffin Canning. All those runs ended up being earned against Griffin Canning. And that was, unfortunately, tonight our play of the game. Completely changed the game, and the Cardinals took full advantage, had a big inning as they go on to win it 6-0. All right, looking ahead to tomorrow, the third game of this 4-game series between the Padres and the St. Louis Cardinals. First pitch tomorrow, note this, not the typical 5:40 p.m. first pitch on a Saturday here at home. It is a 4:15 p.m. first pitch tomorrow. Our pregame coverage will begin at a 3:15. Right-hander Dustin May on the mound for the Cardinals. Yes, the former Dodger and Red Sox, now a Cardinal. Right-hander Dustin May against right-hander Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. First pitch tomorrow, again, 4:15 p.m. Our pregame coverage begins at 3:15. As always, if you missed any portion of our post-game coverage, you can go back and listen to all of it on the Inside San Diego Baseball podcast, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcast. You can also go back on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel and watch any portion of our post-game coverage in video form there as well. Final totals here tonight for the Cardinals: 6 runs, 11 hits, no errors. They left on 7. For the Padres, no runs, 1 hit, 2 errors. They left on 3. Winning pitcher today, Michael McGreevy, who improves to 3-2. Losing pitcher was Griffin Canning, who drops to 0-1. Time of game, 2 hours and 38 minutes. And the crowd at Petco Park, the 17th sellout of 2026, 40,442. Once again, first pitch tomorrow at 4:15 p.m. Our pregame coverage begins at 3:15. Until then, for our great studio coordinator, Jeff Hamby, I'm Sam Levitt saying so long and good night from Petco Park. Again, the final score here tonight, the St. Louis Cardinals 6 and the San Diego Padres nothing. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Padres Radio Network. Have a great rest of your Friday evening.